The British have lost the riverbank. The Chinese have crossed the Imjin. So the battle shape for the next 2 nights will change. Instead of defending the banks of the river Imjin, there will be a defence of the road that moves through the hills, Route 11. So this roadhead is now becoming the key enemy objective, because the enemy wants to take this road in order to move his porters, his logistics down south behind the spearheads, which are now trying to move through this area and break in behind the Americans to cut them off in the east. So for the next 2 nights, on the hills behind me, right and left, battle will rage. On this side, the hills will be occupied by the Royal Ulster Rifles. On this side, by the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers. And as we've discussed at prior stands, the battle is close, intense, highly traumatic. But that doesn't mean there weren't some amusing incidents. After the second night of battle, one of the Royal Ulster Rifles company commanders, sensing that the Chinese had gone to ground after a night of fighting, had to take a combat crap. So he crawled out of his foxhole, moved towards a nearby bush, dropped his trousers, and a Chinese with a burp gun very close by opened fire on him. He ran back, dived into his foxhole, trousers round his ankles, to the cheers of his men. A well-remembered anecdote. But of course there were terrifying moments too. During the night fighting, some of the Royal Ulster Rifle soldiers were looking across the road to watch the Chinese forming up to assault the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers, and they could see in the star shells and the flares a very strange figure directing the Chinese assaults. She was, and it was apparently a she, dressed all in black, white face, long black hair. So they called mortars on her, they called snipers on her, and apparently she was impervious to fire. And a legend grew up of the witch or the Black Widow of the Imjin River. No one really knows who or what she was, possibly a Korean partisan officer who knew this ground and knew where to direct the attacks. And on the third night of battle, on the night of 23rd, 24th, Zulu Company of the Royal Northumberland Fusiliers, who were in deep backstop position down the valley, came under massive and traumatic attack. You'll remember they had been pushed off the forward position on the first night of the Chinese onslaught, and now in backstop, if they were overrun, the entire brigade would be endangered. They couldn't move. And they were led by a man called John Wynne, a very gentlemanly officer, but a very, very tough man. And as this attack rolled in, he was running around the positions and personally hurled 80 hand grenades that night. He was wounded 3 times, but continued to rally his men. And this was some of the closest combat of the battle. The Chinese literally overran, stormed through the trenches, and the Fusiliers battalion boxing champion, a welterweight, said, "I had a rifle with a bayonet on the rifle, but the fighting was so close I couldn't use the rifle. So as the Chinese were coming through, I was literally jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook." His boxing training came in handy. The Fusiliers ran out of hand grenades and were forced to start hurling ration cans, plum pudding, mixed fruit pudding, corned beef, throwing these downrange. And the Chinese, seeing this volley coming in, did actually duck, not realizing that these were non-explosive cans coming at them. This gives you some idea of how intense the fighting was. Zulu Company was fortunately relieved on the final morning of the battle by a bayonet charge by fellow Fusiliers using the ground mist of the Imjin River as cover for their attack. So after that first shock night of battle, when the riverside positions had been lost, for the next 2 nights, 29th Brigade holds its position. But when the order comes to move south, to break out, things would go very, very badly for the brigade. Let's move up to our next stand. Stay with us.